Hello friends, welcome to CloudPedagogy FAQs session. In today's session, we are going to look questionnaires on Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, which is Amazon EC2. So let's get started with our questions. What is Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud? Amazon EC2 is a web service that provides resizable compute capacity in the cloud. It is designed to make web-scale computing easier for the developers. What can I do with Amazon EC2 exactly? Just as Amazon Simple Storage Service, which is Amazon S3, enables storage in the cloud, is it? Likewise, Amazon EC2 enables compute in the cloud. Amazon EC2 simple web service interface that allows you to obtain and configure capacity with minimal friction. It provides you with complete control of your computing resources and lets you run on Amazon's proven computing environment. Amazon EC2 reduces the time required to obtain and boot new server instances to minutes. It also allows you to quickly scale capacity like up or down as your computing requirements change. Amazon EC2 changes the economies of computing by allowing you to pay only for the capacity that you actually use. Next, how can I get started with Amazon EC2? You must have an AWS account to access EC2 service. If you don't already have one, you will be prompted to create one when you begin the Amazon EC2 sign-up process. After signing up, you are reached to Amazon console management page and you can search for EC2 service to reach the EC2 dashboard. You may think, what can developers now do that they couldn't do before? Until now, small developers didn't have the capital to acquire massive compute resources and ensure they had the capacity they needed to handle unexpected spikes in load. Amazon EC2 helps developers use Amazon's own benefits of massive scale with no upfront investment or performance compromises. Developers are now free to innovate, knowing that no matter how successful their businesses become, it will be inexpensive and simple to ensure they have the compute capacity they need to meet their business requirements. Basically, the elastic nature of the service allows developers to instantly scale to meet spikes in traffic or demand. When computing requirements unexpectedly change like up or down, Amazon EC2 can instantly respond, meaning that developers have the ability to control how many resources are in use at any given point in time. In contrast, traditional hosting services generally provide a fixed number of resources for a fixed amount of time. It means that the users have a limited ability to easily respond when their usage is rapidly changing, unpredictable, or is known to experience large peaks at various intervals. Next, how do I run systems in the Amazon EC2 environment? Once you have set up your account and select or create your AMIs, then you are ready to boot your instance. You can start your AMI on any number of on-demand instances by using the Run Instances API call. You simply need to indicate how many instances you wish to launch. If you wish to run more than your on-demand quota, complete the Amazon EC2 instance request form. If Amazon EC2 is able to fulfill your request, Run Instances will return success and AWS will start launching your instances. You can check on the status of your instances using the Describe Instances API call. You can also programmatically terminate any number of your instances using the Terminate Instances API call. If you have a running instance using an Amazon EBS boot partition, you can also use the Stop Instances API call to release the compute resources but preserve the data on the boot partition. You can use the Start Instances API when you are ready to restart the associated instance with the Amazon EBS boot partition. In addition, you have the option to use spot instances to reduce your computing costs when you have flexibility in when your application can run. If you prefer, you can also perform all these actions from the AWS Management Console or through the command line using our command line tools. Of course, they have been implemented with this web service API. So next question is, what is the difference between using the local instance store and Amazon Elastic Block Store, which is EBS, for the root device? When you launch your Amazon EC2 instances, you have the ability to store your root device data on Amazon EBS or the local instance store. By using Amazon EBS, data on the root device will persist independently from the lifetime of the instance. This enables you to stop and restart the instance at a subsequent time, which is similar to shutting down your laptop and restarting it when you need it again. Alternatively, the local instance store only persists during the life of the instance. This is an inexpensive way to launch instances where data is not stored to the root device. For example, some customers use this option to run large websites where each instance is a clone to handle web traffic. Next question is, how quickly will system be running? It typically takes less than 10 minutes from the issue of the run instances call to the point where all requested instances begin their boot sequences. This time depends on a number of factors, including the size of your AMI, the number of instances you are launching, and how recently you have launched that AMI. Images launched for the first time may take slightly longer to boot. Next, how do I load and store my systems with Amazon EC2? Amazon EC2 allows you to set up and configure everything about your instances from your operating system up to your applications. An Amazon Mission Image, which is AMI, is simply a packaged up environment that includes all the necessary bits to set up and boot your instance. Your AMIs are simply your unit of deployment. You might have just one AMI, or you might compose your system out of several building blocks of AMIs. For example, web servers, application servers, and databases, etc. Amazon EC2 provides a number of tools to make creating an AMI easily. Once you create a custom AMI, you will need to bundle it. If you are bundling an image with a root device backed by Amazon EBS, you can simply use the bundle command in the AWS Management Console. If you are bundling an image with a boot partition on the instance store, then you will need to use the AMI tools to upload it to Amazon S3. Amazon EC2 uses Amazon EBS and Amazon S3 to provide reliable, scalable storage of your AMIs so that AWS service can boot them when you ask to do so. Or if you want, you don't have to set up your own AMI from scratch. You can use from a number of globally available AMIs that provide useful instances. For example, you just want a simple Linux server, you can choose one of the standard Linux distribution AMIs. Next, how do I access my system? The run instances call the initiates execution of your application stack that will return a set of DNS names, one for each system that is being booted. This name can be used to access the system exactly as you would if it were in your own data center. You own that machine while your operating system stack is executing on it. Next, is Amazon EC2 used in conjunction with Amazon S3? Of course you can. Amazon EC2 is used jointly with Amazon S3 for instances with root devices backed by local instance storage. By using Amazon S3, developers have access to the same highly scalable, reliable, fast, inexpensive data storage infrastructure that Amazon uses to run its own global network of websites. In order to execute system in the Amazon EC2 environment, developers use the tools provided to load their AMIs into Amazon S3 and to move them between Amazon S3 and Amazon EC2. AWS expects developers to find the combination of Amazon EC2 and Amazon S3 to be very useful. Amazon EC2 provides cheap, scalable compute in the cloud, while Amazon S3 allows users to store their data reliably. Next, how many instances can I run in Amazon EC2? You are limited to running on-demand instances per your vCPU based on-demand instances limit, purchasing 20 reserved instances and requesting spot instances per your dynamic spot limit per region. New AWS accounts may start with limits that are lower than the limits described here. If you need more instances, Complete the Amazon EC2 limit increase request form with your use case and your limit increase will be considered. Limit increases are tied to the region they were requested for. Next question, are there any limitations in sending email from Amazon EC2 instances? Yes, you can. In order to maintain the quality of Amazon EC2 addresses for sending email, AWS enforced default limits on the amount of email that can be sent from EC2 accounts. If you wish to send larger amounts of email from EC2, you can apply to have these limits removed from your account by requesting to AWS. Next, how quickly can I scale my capacity both up and down? Amazon EC2 provides a truly elastic computing environment. Amazon EC2 enables you to increase or decrease capacity within minutes, not hours or days. You can commission hundreds or even thousands of server instances simultaneously. When you need more instances, you simply call run instances, and Amazon EC2 will typically set up your new instances in a matter of minutes. Of course, because this is all controlled with web service APIs, your application can automatically scale itself up and down depending on its need. Next, what operating system environments are supported? Amazon EC2 currently supports a variety of operating systems, including like Amazon Linux, Ubuntu, Windows Server, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and many more as you see in the list. In fact, AWS is looking for ways to expand it to other platforms as well. Next, we'll see what are on-demand instance limits. What is changing? Amazon EC2 is transitioning on-demand instance limits from the current instance count based limits to the new vCPU based limits to simply the limit management experience for AWS customers. Usage toward the vCPU based limit is measured in terms of number of vCPUs, which are virtual central processing units, for the Amazon EC2 instance types to launch any combination of instance types that meet your application needs. What are vCPU based limits? You are limited to running one or more on-demand instances in an AWS account. Amazon EC2 measures usage toward each limit based on the total number of vCPUs that are assigned to the running on-demand instances in your AWS account. Here you can see the number of vCPUs for each instance size. The vCPU mapping for the same instance types may differ depending on instance type. Next, how many on-demand instances can I run in Amazon EC2? There are 5 vCPU based instance limits. Each defines the amount of capacity you can use of a given instance family. All usage of instances in a given family, regardless of generation, size, or configuration variant like disk processor type, will occur towards the family's total vCPU limit listed in the table. New AWS accounts may start with limits that are lower than the limits described here. Next, are these on-demand instance vCPU based limits regional? Will these limits change over time? Yes, the on-demand instance limits for an AWS account are set on a per region basis. Limits can change over time. Amazon EC2 is constantly monitoring your usage within each region, and your limits are raised automatically based on your use of EC2. Next, how can I request a limit increase and calculate them? Even though EC2 automatically increases your on-demand instance limits based on your usage, if needed, you can request a limit increase for the limits page on the AWS EC2 console, or the Amazon service page on the service quota console, or the service quotas API or CLI. To calculate my new vCPU limits, you can find the vCPU mapping for each of the Amazon EC2 instance types, or use the simplified vCPU calculator to compute the total vCPU limit requirements for your AWS account. Next, do vCPU limits apply when purchasing reserved instances or requesting spot instances? Will this affect running instances? No, the vCPU based limits only apply to running on-demand instances and spot instances. And again, no for opting into vCPU based limits will not affect any running instances. Next question, how can I view my current on-demand instance limits? You can find your current on-demand instance limits on the EC2 service limits page in the Amazon EC2 console or from the service quotas console and APIs. Next, can I still launch the same number of instances? Yes, the vCPU based instance limits allows you to launch at least the same number of instances as count based instance limits. Will I be able to view instance usage against these limits? With the Amazon CloudWatch metrics integration, you can view EC2 usage against limits in the service quotas console. Service quotas also enables customers to use CloudWatch for configuring alarms to warn customers of approaching limits. In addition, you can continue to track and inspect your instance usage in Trusted Advisor and Limit Monitor. Next, will I still be able to use the Describe Account Attributes API? With the vCPU limits, AWS no longer have total instance limits governing the usage. Hence, the Describe Account Attributes API will no longer return the max instance value. Instead, you can now use the Service Quotas APIs to retrieve information about EC2 limits. Next, will the vCPU limits have an impact on my monthly bill? No, EC2 usage is still calculated either by the hour or the second, depending on which AMI you are running and the instance type and size you have launched. Next, will vCPU limits be available in all regions? Yes, vCPU based instance limits are available in all commercial AWS regions. So that's all for today's class. I hope we had a good session by covering EC2 basics. Wish to meet you again in my next session. Until then, take care.